Hello, Connections. Glad you're here. We're talking the mission field. The purpose of the church, to go into the world and share the gospel message. The message is that you have a Savior, and He has died on the cross, and 3 days later He rose from the grave, defeating death, and is offering salvation to every inhabitant of the world. Perhaps when you go into the mission field, one of the first questions you'll get back from the world that you are trying to seek and save is, why do I need a Savior? And that begs the question that we're going to be talking about today, which is, just how broken is this world? I have known no other life but this one. This is where I have learned to love. This is where my relationships are. This is where I travel and seek out beauty and sunrises and sunsets and the majesty of this planet that God has placed me in. And it is glorious. But even prior to salvation, I think everyone recognizes there's just something about this world that is tainted, that's flawed. You see, we interact with people and we have encouraging conversations, and then those same people, not too long after we've met them, perhaps are sharing every detail that we've shared with them in a private setting. Maybe it's just the systems of this world that proclaim themselves as just and right, but often let us down and create more pain and frustration than they ever do delivering on their promises. These are the things that are the earmarks of a broken world. As we come into relationship with God, one of the things that He blesses us with is eyes to see the world as He sees it. And He sees the same people that you and I see, and He sees that they have potential. They have a greatness about them, but it only will come to full fruition if they accept Him and His Son as their Lord and Savior. Until then, all of that potential is lost and just adds to the noise and the chaos of the brokenness. And that's our struggle. It seems the more we grow in our relationship with God, the more broken the world appears. And that's why, if you look at Romans 1, when Paul is describing what he sees when he looks out his window, and then the condition of the world, why it sounds so dire. That's the same reason when we were studying Ecclesiastes, that the author of Ecclesiastes had the same kind of perspective. There's no doubt that this world is broken, and Jesus is communicating that to the disciples as He sends them out in this test run to minister and experience what it will be to share the gospel message. Matthew 10:21. A brother will betray his brother to death. A father will betray his own child, and children will rebel against their parents and cause them to be killed. And all nations will hate you because you are my followers. But everyone who endures to the end will be saved. When you are persecuted in one town, flee to the next. I tell you the truth, the Son of Man will return before you have reached all the towns of Israel. The interesting aspect of this particular passage is it's not only talking to the disciples and the dangers they will face, similar to when we were speaking of the opposition, but it also is a message to the church of events that are not for the present time when He's speaking to His disciples, but for the future times of the church. That all nations will come against us and all nations will hate us. Those are things that we can expect during the church age. The last passage that speaks of Jesus' return before they will be able to go through all the cities of Israel Well, again, that was a larger scope than what this mission that the disciples were going to be sent on. And most now agree that that is speaking to the judgment that comes against Jerusalem in AD 70. So Jesus is speaking a word not only to the disciples and directly, but also speaking to you, the sharers of the gospel today. Continuing 24, students are not greater than their teacher, and slaves are not greater than their master. Students are to be like their teacher, and slaves are to be like their master. And since I, the master of the household, have been called prince of demons, the members of my household will be called by even worse names. Jesus is sending this wake-up call because one of the things that I think was plaguing the disciples, and certainly I can speak to personally, is you get tired of living in a broken world. You get tired of running up against opposition. You get tired of things not working the way they're supposed to work. If this was truly a world that was created by God and was holy and righteous, and everyone had the motives and shared the right heart, shared God's heart, that's the world we desire to live in. But that is not the world that we find outside the door. Now, our goal is to create that environment, allow God to create that environment within our fellowship, so we have a place to return from the mission field and be healed and receive proper encouragement and know that our brothers and sisters are in the fight and solid next to us. That's the secondary purpose of the church, is to create that sanctuary. But never mistake that this is a very broken world in need of a Savior, and that's why God made such a sacrifice. Okay, now, what's the point? So, what part of the world is most broken? Number 2, how do you cope with the brokenness? Number 3, is it getting better or worse? Those are some discussion questions to help start the conversation today so that we can have a better understanding and hopefully receive some encouragement from one another on just how to manage navigating through this broken world. All right, more on this topic and related topics for the rest of the week. I'm glad you're here. Please know that I love you and I miss you, and please be good.